Right, we are back with another episode of About Crypto. I have another special guest here, Dan Hannum, who is the CIO of Hannum Capital Management and the COO of Zen Ledger. How's it going, man?
Good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. How's everything where you are right now?
It's good. It's good. Like New York, where we're still kind of on temporary lockdown. So it's an interesting time frame. We actually just ended our lease on the Hannum Capital side here in LA. So that's I guess one of the biggest pieces of news that we've had over the last couple of months, and so excited to be fully remote and distributed on that side. But other than that, it's a weird time to be in, but I always try to be thankful and grateful for what we have, and I have income and a roof over my head and food in my stomach, and so it could be a lot worse. So I'm grateful to be where we're at.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And that's very good. Some people aren't in that position right now, so
Yeah.
hopefully everything gets better pretty soon. So my first question for you is, how did you get involved in crypto?
Yeah. So I guess there's two different kind of tracks. There's kind of like the personal and then the professional track. On the personal side, I actually got the first kind of interaction I had with crypto was with Bitcoin back in 2013. And I was actually still in college at the time, was a pretty decent sized user of Silk Road. And that was kind of my welcome to crypto moment. So that was kind of like my personal intro into crypto. Bought a bunch of Bitcoin, which ended up being a very nice bet. But at the time, I don't think I was actually like investing in Bitcoin. I was like, I want some good weed or whatever we were into at the time. So luckily, that was kind of how I got started. Luckily, I was able to hold on to a decent sized chunk, and really kind of started getting back into crypto full time in 2015. My background's largely in traditional finance. I got my MBA at the University of South Carolina. I went up to New York and started working at Goldman Sachs and the Morgan Stanley. And then actually moved from New York to San Fran and started working at Blockchain Capital. That's kind of where like the professional aspect of crypto really started. And Blockchain Capital, us and DCG were kind of the only two real investors at the time from a venture perspective. So that was really fun and exciting to invest in a lot of entrepreneurs that were kind of building the ecosystem and infrastructure for crypto. And then through that, kind of started incubating the ICO phase where, we worked with J.R. Willits and a couple other team members on Mastercoin, which is kind of one of the first ICOs before even Ethereum. And then, we've seen where that train has left. So, I guess that's a kind of a long-tailed answer, but quick answer, personally in 2013, professionally in 2015, and have been here ever since.
That's awesome, man. And that's a good story. And especially investing in entrepreneurs in crypto early on. I mean, that's huge. So you've seen it all for the most part.
A little bit. There's definitely been times where we've gotten some slack for being venture only. So we don't invest in any liquid assets. We're not investing in ICOs or, in the new DeFi or yield farming craze. So whether it's now or like, October, November, December of 2017, there's definitely been a couple moments where, people have questioned the venture only model, but, we thought that was the best way to capture value in the ecosystem. And then for our LPs or our investors, it was a model that kind of they were familiar with. So it really helped us in setting up the fund. And as you mentioned, it's been amazing being able to, not only provide capital, but, knowledge and expertise and relationships to some of our portfolio companies to really help build out that ecosystem. And it's been exciting to watch it grow. We're in a much better place as an industry than we were even 2 years ago. And, definitely where we were 5 years ago. So it's fun. It's exciting to be able to have that impact.
Yeah. And especially, looking on the social media side, I mean, we have Barstool Sports and the Winklevoss twins talking about Bitcoin in the same room. I mean, 3 years ago, who would have expected that?
Oh yeah.
So.
I mean, we were getting somewhat like laughed out of the rooms because our LP base is all high net worth individuals. But we had meetings with, traditional institutional investors, whether endowment funds, pension funds, family offices. And, at that time, they was just such a lack of information. They had no idea what it was. Like, so now you're starting to see whether it's, the Winklevosses and Dave, or even, on the institutional side, you start seeing Renaissance Tech, which is, one of the biggest hedge funds, the most successful hedge funds of all time. Paul Tudor Jones getting involved, obviously with MicroStrategy last week, an organization putting $250 million in to, protect their reserves. Like, I think we're in a really good spot to start, seeing that mass adoption that I think we've all kind of been waiting for and expecting over the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And this is so exciting. So what are you currently working on in the crypto industry?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, it's it's a lot of work, but yeah, at the same time, managing kind of both companies. So my day-to-day activities on the Zen Ledger side, I'm the COO of Zen Ledger. We have a team of about 20 individuals that are all spread out between engineering, dev, marketing, biz dev, operations, etc. So that's really exciting. I think crypto taxes is a really big piece of our industry. And we've seen a lot of people that are very confused about how crypto is taxed, how to make sure that they're, complying. Obviously, I think we'll still have a decent percentage of our industry that won't file, until they're, put against the fire. And obviously that's not our recommendation, but, at the end of the day, do whatever you want to do. But there's definitely kind of like the anti-government, anti-tax crowd in crypto, which, personally, I'm kind of libertarian, so I kind of skew towards that way. But anyways, I guess with crypto taxes, it's been fun. We built a pretty solid team. Obviously, I'm pretty biased as an investor and now an operator of the business, but I think we offer a really valid service and have a really great team, and have been able to help tens of thousands of individuals really make sure that they're compliant. And then on the other side, as the CIO of Hannum Capital, we're investing anywhere between 250K to 1.5 million into seed and Series A rounds in crypto specific companies. That's kind of what my day-to-day looks like. The good thing with the Hannum Capital side is we've been able to build a pretty solid team. We have 8 full-time people here in LA. So a lot of like the day-to-day typical kind of nuance has been able to be allocated or delegated into other teammates now. So really all I'm doing is kind of meeting with potential founders and signing off on checks. But a lot of our day-to-day analyst work and stuff like that is now taken care of, which allows me to kind of have the time to now lead Zen Ledger. And there's a lot of synergies kind of between both. As an investor, we've been able to invest in over 20 different companies in this space. A lot of those relationships and connections have allowed us to expand our efforts on the Zen Ledger side as well, whether it's partnerships with Lolly or Celsius or Fold or Casa or whatever. So there's a lot of synergy that happens between both companies that makes being in crypto full time pretty fun.
That's awesome, man. So another question is, what do you look for in founders when you want to invest in them? Is it like a certain personality or a vigor about them, or is it all product based?
Yeah, I mean, at the stage that we're investing, which is typically seed or Series A, a lot of these companies are just getting off, or maybe pre-product, pre-revenue. So a lot of the times you can't really look at the company from like a pure financial perspective and be like, okay, this is how much they're doing in revenue, this is how much we can expect, growth rate, etc. You're kind of making a bet on the founder or founding team, and the team in general. So there's definitely an element or aspect that we look at from like a personal or professional ability. Obviously what we like to see is a founder that's kind of been there and done that before, not necessarily in crypto, but they've either raised venture capital or they've been a C-suite executive at a venture-backed business. They've been around the block. They know how to scale and operate a business that's huge, and something that may not be surprising, but was kind of lacking in crypto, especially in 2017 and 2018. We saw the influx of new projects. Most of them went the ICO route, which was fine for us because, we don't invest in ICOs. But then, in kind of crypto winter of 2018 and then early 2019, that's really where most of like the real, quote unquote, real entrepreneurs and real founders were coming in, and they wanted venture capital. They wanted, the advantages that venture brings to a business. And so, yeah, the team's definitely a big element. The product or service is obviously, big. We've seen, some of our investments that, are still pretty early. And, that's a real big thing too, as well as timing. And, one of the biggest examples that I always bring up is pets.com and Chewy. Same exact business model 10 years later. Pets.com went bankrupt. Chewy's an $8 billion company. And it's really around the infrastructure that was around, the business at the time that they launched. When you look at like a pets.com, like, back in 99, 2000, 2001, no one had a smartphone. No one was used to ordering online. Like, you wanted to get your dog food or whatever from PetSmart or whatever. And now you look at Chewing, like literally same exact business model, and now they're, $8-10 billion company. So there's a lot of that in crypto as well, where you could have a really great idea, really great concept, but it's just like the infrastructure to support that is not there, whether that's users that will use the app or other protocols that will kind of interact with the app. So timing's a big one, team's a big one. And then for us, at the end of the day, valuation's a big one. And I think that kind of ties back into the founders is, most founders have a decent, spectrum of what a typical valuation is per, whether it's seed or Series A. So I think that's, a big one, because we've seen a lot of companies that came in 2018 and saw kind of the ICO craze, and, they'd be pre-product, pre-revenue, and trying to raise $10 million on, $100 million valuation. It's like, how, why? Like, you're not going to be able to do that. There's nothing there that like justifies or warrants that type of valuation. So yeah, there's a few different factors that kind of all blend into kind of like a checklist that we have before we make a final investment.
It's awesome, man. And, I'm sure a lot of companies definitely appreciate that, and that you've been in the space for so long. So hearing your perspective on these things is extremely important. So,
yeah. I think, being in crypto full time for the last 5.5, almost 6 years now, we've seen almost everything on the venture side and then on the non-venture side. So, I think there's a lot of value that we can bring to a founder or to a team that's, non-capital focused. And I know that's kind of cliche in venture to say, we're value add, but, I think the relationships that we've been able to build, whether that was, my time at Blockchain Capital or now at Hannum Capital, there's a certain level of connections or relationships that allow you to either get access to deal flow or deals in general, or give you the element to once we invest capital, we can actually open up our Rolodex and say, hey, here's 20 or 25 other portfolio companies that we've invested in. You should meet with this founder. You should meet with that founder. Like, here's a potential where you're angling on this side, and here's a company on this side, and there's no direct competition, but you guys could mutually benefit from working together. So we'd like to think that we add a little bit more than just a check, but we'll see what happens with our returns over the next couple of years.
I'm sure it'll work out, man.
I hope so.
So what's one myth you'd like to debunk in crypto?
Ooh, good question. Maybe I'll cheat and do two quick ones on like the investment side and then on the tax side. On the tax side, I think a big myth is that, and maybe it's kind of being debunked now, but you'd be surprised of the number of people that either are unaware or just are somewhat ignorant to how crypto tax is actually taxed. And there's a decent amount of participants in our ecosystem that were not aware that any type of crypto to crypto transaction is a taxable event. So whether you're transacting ETH to get USDC or whatever you're doing, anytime you go from crypto to crypto, that's a taxable event. So we had a lot of people that were coming in, in 2018 that may have invested after kind of the ICO craze. They had a bunch of, tokens at a loss, and they're like, why would I have any taxable events? Like, why would I owe any money? It's like, you made 5,000 trades, and each trade is a taxable event that occurs. So the crypto tax landscape is definitely, there's a lot of kind of myths to debunk. There's a lot of education that we need to continue to do. We're working with the IRS, we're working with Coin Center, we're working with other, policymakers to help educate the IRS, to make sure that we have fair and accurate guidance. But then there's also a huge element to, making sure that the everyday, average crypto investor understands these things and knows what they're getting into from a taxable event standpoint before they start yield farming or going into some of these more, new experiments. Yeah. And then on the crypto side, I guess a myth is that, the venture route is not the best way to invest from an investor perspective. We've seen some of like the hedge funds or liquidly traded funds that have, really great return profiles, but I think you've seen a lot of them blow up as well. And I think there's been a lot of people that have rushed into, raising their own fund, and they've never managed outside capital before. And there's a lot that goes into managing other people's money. I think when you're managing your own money, whether it's, 500 or 5 million, you get to make all the rules, you get to invest in whatever you want. But when you're raising capital from outside investors, you have mandates, you have theses, you have, an investable class that kind of fits within what you're looking for. So I guess that's kind of been a myth, is that like the venture route's not a really good way to go from like a return profile perspective. But we think, the venture route has a really good risk return reward profile compared to some of the liquid routes. So I guess those would kind of be two high level kind of myths or misconceptions from both angles.
Yeah, those are definitely great, and those misconceptions are definitely there. So thanks for clearing that up. So where can people find you?
Yeah, I mean, I spend a considerable amount of time on Twitter. My handle is just dhannum8, DHANNUM8. I don't know if we link to show notes or anything like that, but yeah, I'm pretty frequently on Twitter. I think as most people in crypto Twitter or in crypto in general, there's a ton of deal flow there. There's a ton of information there. We've been able to meet a lot of our portfolio companies have come from Twitter, and it's just a great platform to share ideas, to share thoughts. And so, yeah, I'm pretty active on Twitter. And then, just our fund email or Zen Ledger email. So if you ever have any tax related questions or issues, feel free to shoot me an email. It's Dan at Zen Ledger. Happy to get you squared away. And if you're a founder, looking to raise venture capital in crypto, it's just DH at Hannum Capital Management. So we'd love to take a look at the deck and the team. And yeah, I guess that's kind of the three main ways to get a hold of me.
Sweet. And thanks to everybody for listening, and have a good day.